I think we should make a punctual start. So yes, settle down onto your backs, and we're just going to do some simple twisty things really on our backs to just help us feel ourselves on this Friday morning. So I think start by settling down, maybe with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor, because we're going to do some knee tilting movements in a moment. And the first thing I'd like you to do, very nice waggy tail from Basil there. So the first thing I'd like you to do is, once you're settled, to start to let your head roll to the right and to the left. And get a sense of how your neck is feeling. And usually from sensing how the neck is feeling, we can feel the shoulders. So letting the head roll to the right and to the left. Just easing out your neck, letting your shoulders settle on the floor. Just letting yourself start the process of arriving on your mat. So Tracy, we're starting lying down. You might be pleased to hear. So you can lie down onto your back. And from rolling your head to side, find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the floor whenever you're ready. And then do a little bit of letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And keep this movement easy, comfortable, lazy. How does it feel to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left? Just notice how you feel around the back of your pelvis, into your lower back, all these places where we can often feel a bit creaky. And then settle in the center. And bring your hands onto your belly and quite low down onto your belly. So have your hands beneath your belly button. So right the sort of lower part of your abdomen. And just see how it feels to bring your attention to your breathing. So what do you feel in this lower part of your belly as you let your breath come in, let your breath leave you? And it might be you feel quite a lot of movement in your belly. You might not feel much. It doesn't really matter. And let your belly be as soft and relaxed as possible. So then maybe there is that possibility that as you exhale, the belly softens back a little bit. As the breath comes in, your belly rises a little bit. And as well as feeling the movement of your belly also feels the warmth and the weight of your hands, and that's quite soothing and reassuring. Just have another cycle or two of breath. Alice, we're lying on our backs, you'll be pleased to hear, hopefully. So from lying on your backs here, we're going to come in and do a rocking movement for the upper back. So again, if you prefer to lengthen your legs out, you could do at this point. You're going to bring your arms up towards the ceiling and make an O shape with your arms. So you're interlinking your fingers. So it's like you're holding a big beach ball on your chest. Yeah, see if you can make it a bit more circular, Sheila. I don't know, look, yours looks a bit, I don't know, maybe it's the angle. No, that looks fine. So you've made a big circle with your arms, you've interlinked your fingers, and then you're going to start to rock side to side across your upper back. So keeping your circle circular, rocking towards the back of your right shoulder, the back of your left shoulder, letting your head come along with the arms. So out of all these rocking movements, this is the one that I always feel is the sort of kindest and encourages us perhaps to soften the most across the upper back. That's it. So if your knees are bent, just try and leave your knees behind. So the rocking is just focused in the upper back, the shoulders, the head, the neck. Good. So if this is comfortable, carry on with it. Whenever you need to take a break and rest your arms down, then do so. So if you're still rocking, you can do once, twice more, and then let your arms come to rest. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. If your legs are long, now bend your knees again, stand your feet on the floor. Come to once more tilting your knees to the right and to the left. Just see how that movement feels. So as you all know, sometimes when we release a little bit in the upper back, then we come back to this tilting movement of the knees. It may feel a bit easier. So once, twice more to each side. And then we're going to settle again and bring our attention back to our breathing. So again, you could lengthen out your legs if you prefer. This time I'd like you to bring your hands onto your low ribs. So you've got the hands on the low ribs. You might have your thumbs going around towards the back of your rib cage. That's up to you. And then just see, how does it feel to focus into the movement of your body with your breathing here? You might want to give yourself time for the in-breath to travel all the way down to the bottom of your lungs, so you feel these low ribs expanding. And then for the out-breath to leave you completely, so you empty, you feel those low ribs hugging back around you, narrowing. Just having a few more cycles of breath here, and you don't have to do anything to your breathing. I think just sometimes our breathing maybe naturally slows and deepens when we bring the hands onto the ribs. But if it doesn't, that's absolutely fine. So another cycle or two of breath here. Feeling the widening of the in-breath, the narrowing of the exhalation. And then from here, you're going to, like you were a moment ago, Sharon, you're going to cross your arms over your chest, and you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. So you're giving yourself a hug. It doesn't matter which arm's on top. And now what I'd like you to do is rock your elbows, your knees, your head, all to the right and then all to the left. So it's a slightly bigger movement now. We're rocking very nice side to side across the back of the body. Good. That's lovely. And just, yeah, keeping it easy, keeping it comfortable. So it's really nice to see you all sort of doing different rhythms. So yeah, choose a sort of rhythm that feels right for you just now. And a few more times, let yourself rock to the right and to the left. We're going to settle in the center for one last little focus on our breathing. So from here, uncross your arms and bring your hands onto your chest, right up at the top of your chest, just beneath your collarbones. And have a few cycles of breath with your hands resting there. So it's nice if your elbows can be on the floor. You've got your hands right up at the top of the chest, and just see how this feels. For me, this always feels this very sort of light, soft breath when I focus here. I'm sort of like light as a feather. And again, it's fine if whatever you feel is fine. It's just about that, can we feel our body right now? The movement of the breath in our body. Okay, so maybe just 2 or 3 more cycles of breath. And then from here, you're going to fold your knees into your chest. You can do a little bit of rocking from side to side, a bit of circling around the back of your pelvis. You could take your legs up towards the ceiling and shake them out. Whatever feels good right now. We're going to, from here in a moment, come over onto hands and knees, but just take your time to do whatever you'd like to do on your back before we come off our backs. So we're going to do a few things on hands and knees, sort of focusing on movements of the spine, and then we'll be coming over into standing. So come on to, what I would quite like you to do to start with is come on to hands and knees and just have a sense of how your body feels. And actually, if we're thinking about, so I was going to suggest cat movements, but I think I'm going to suggest cat movements or tail wagging, or you could mix them both up. But just have a sense of what would your body, out of these movements, what would your body like now? And so for me, when I came onto hands and knees and did some yoga earlier on today, I felt I really wanted to start with that tail wagging. So imagining I have a tail, wagging my tail from side to side, and maybe starting quite slowly, seeing how that feels. And then you could move on to using your lower legs, and again, keep slow. If you do this slowly from side to side, swinging your lower legs to the left and the right, you can look down the sides of your body towards your feet. And then if you wanted to speed it up, you could do. At that point, I would stop looking towards my feet. So if you're going to quite quickly swing your lower legs from side to side, I would suggest not looking at them. Yeah, and see how that feels. And then you could stop swinging your legs and just come back a couple of times to wagging your tail, moving your pelvis towards the right and towards the left. So, or in a sense, maybe you're moving your pelvis more towards the right shoulder and then the left shoulder. And then we're going to have a little lengthen out in dog pose and then come to a bit of cat if you weren't already doing cat. So if you need to give your hands a little shake out, do so. And then big handprints on the floor, tucking your toes under, exhale, rocking your hips back and then up, picking your knees up off the floor, seeing how this first dog pose feels today. So not always so good. You might feel stiff in the shoulders, tight in the back of the legs. Might feel delightful, in which case you can just enjoy. So this first dog might be about releasing some of those tightnesses. If it feels very easy, it might be a bit more about feeling the movement of your breath. Whenever you've had enough in that dog, you're going to fold into child, kneeling or lying on your belly, just for maybe a few quiet breaths. Yes, so where would you like to be quiet? Child, kneeling, lying on your belly. Feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. And then when you've had enough quiet breaths, you're going to come back onto hands and knees. This time if you did cat pose and you want to now do tail wagging, absolutely do that. I'm going to focus this time on cat pose. So on hands and knees, rounding the back towards the ceiling, letting the spine dip down to the floor. And if you're someone who likes to add cat and tail wagging together, then please do that, because Hilary, I know particularly you like that. So for me, my brain's not very capable of adding these things together, so I like to just keep it very simple. So rounding the spine, dipping the spine, keeping it comfortable, keeping it easy, making sure the neck and the shoulders are releasing as much as possible. And then again, whenever you're ready, we'll move into another dog pose. So again, if you need to shake your hands out first, do so. Otherwise, big handprints on the floor, tucking the toes under, rocking your hips back, picking your knees up off the floor, seeing how this second dog pose feels. And just, yes, being patient with your body if it's feeling creaky today. Patient with yourself, maybe. That's it. Kind, patient, bending your knees, breathing, all these things we can do to help ourselves feel more comfortable. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And yes, again, from your dog, you can stay longer in dog, depending how it feels. From dog, child pose, kneeling, lying on your belly. So it might be for you that it's always clear that one of these three is the best place for you. Yes, Kate, for you, lying on your belly, I think, is the one. Others of you, you might want to mix and match a little bit. So, mix it up, try things. And all the time, it's really helpful just to be asking ourselves, what is it? What does our body want to do? What place do we want to be in? So wherever you are, in child pose, kneeling or lying on your belly, just let yourself settle and soften. Feel the contact of the ground beneath you and the movement of the breath through you. And then from here, we're going to come back onto hands and knees. I'd say one last time, but I'm sure it won't be. And we're going to do this twisting movement on hands and knees. So I've been thinking a lot about which twists I think are helpful, and I think this one is very useful. So the one, thread the needle, it's sometimes called, or threading the needle. So we slide one arm underneath, and then if we're comfortable on the side of our head, if our neck is okay, the top arm can come up towards the ceiling or onto the back of the pelvis or round the back of our ribs. And we have a few breaths here. And yeah, I think this is a really helpful twist, as long as your neck feels happy in it, because you can really feel, I can always really feel quite a lot going on in the ribs. That's very nice, yes. You have a few breaths. You obviously, when you want to come out, you bring that top arm back onto the floor, you press down into that hand to come out, and you move on to the second side. But yes, I think this can be a really useful twist. So one of the things we're doing in this class today is we are doing some of, I suppose, what I think are the useful twists, where we can really feel that we're releasing some tension in the rib cage, in the spine between the shoulder blades. That's really why we do twists. Very nice. Yes, so lengthen out, do this twist on side 2, and then a bit of a lengthen in dog pose, because yes, that twist is a little bit confusing for the brain. So nice to have a bit of a lengthen out in dog. And in fact, from this dog pose, so stay in this dog pose for several breaths. But from this dog pose, we're going to be coming up into standing. So yes, so from your dog pose, I think you don't need me to tell you, walking your hands in towards your feet, coming up into standing. So arriving in standing on your mat, and just maybe taking a moment, seeing how standing feels. And we will, in a moment, we will do our loose swinging twist, and then this one. I'm talking about useful twist. This one I really like. It's less about really feeling the whole of our body moving together. So maybe a twist which is about our general sense of well-being and ease. Very nice for shoulders, swinging the arms. A few more times. Okay, so let's let that go. And I just want us to do this little arm movement where we're bringing our hands. Maybe if I just show you first of all, I'm going to come nearer and show you actually. Standing. So we're going to do this movement. We start with the hands at in prayer pose. We take the arms down and then up. We touch them in prayer pose over the head. And then we bring the base of the thumbs to the point between the eyebrows. And then the base of the thumbs to the heart. And we have a breath in each of those places. Okay, so come back into standing if you came back down again. So I always think about these movements as we're connecting the mind and the heart. And also I think it's quite centering, bringing ourselves. So starting with your hands in prayer pose at your heart. And I've got the base of my thumbs resting on my breastbone. We're thinking about the heart center rather than the literal heart off to the left. So from here, let a breath come in, and as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. You're going to touch your hands in prayer pose over your head, and then bring your hands down so the base of your thumbs are resting at that point between your eyebrows. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you here. And then bring your thumbs down to rest on your breastbone at your heart. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then as you exhale, take your arms down again, back up to touch your palms over your head in prayer. Mudra, bring the base of your thumbs to the point between your eyebrows. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Hands back down to the heart. Let a breath come in. Let a breath leave. One last time, exhaling, take the arms down, touching the hands in prayer pose over the head, bringing the base of the thumbs between the eyebrows. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave. Hands to the heart. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave. And then just here for a moment, open your hands up so you've got one hand on top of the other at your heart. And just have a couple more cycles of breath there, maybe closing your eyes. You could sway a little into the left. By swaying, I mean rock your weight over one foot and then the other. And then from here, we're going to release the arms and we're going to fold down into a forward bend. Depending on how your back feels, you might want to bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs, letting your head go. That looks like Alison just joining us. Hi, Al. Hello, lovely. Lovely to see you. We're in standing. So we're in a forward bend, actually. What am I saying? We're in a forward bend. And just being easy in this forward bend. So bending the knees, resting the elbows on the thighs, whatever helps you to feel that you can release in the forward bend. Let the head go, let the arms go. And obviously that's very nice. And obviously, whenever you're ready, rolling back into standing. Hands up the fronts of your legs. So I think it's just, you know, our lower back can feel so different day to day, or it can always feel tight. So yes, we need to do things that help. Let's see. Yes, we're going to do a little, maybe watch. We're going to do this sequence of mini balances, but it's going to be slightly different at the end. So we're going to be sliding our foot back behind us, this one where we'll bounce the toes a couple of times. Then from here, we'll go on into tree, mini tree. And then from here, we're going to cross. In a mini tree, you can have your hands in prayer pose. I'll talk you into all of this in a moment. From there, we're going to then cross, bend the standing knee, cross the top leg over. And then from here, I would like you to see, how does it feel to take your arms up and then touch your hands in prayer pose over your head? You don't need to do that last bit if you're not feeling that steady, but if you want to, you could give it a go. So before we do all of that, I'd like you to choose which foot. So settle your feet down. Big exhalation. A bit of rocking your weight from side to side. Just seeing if there's a sense of one foot being a bit easier, a bit more willing to take your weight in a balance. So we start with our more willing side first, our cooperative side. So you're going to bring your weight over the foot you're going to stand on. And the first thing we're going to do is come up onto the ball of the other foot and then slide those toes back behind us and flip onto the top of the toes. And then can you bounce your toes on the floor? So it just means sort of pick them up, put them down again. Tap them maybe rather than bounce. Good. And then slide your toes back in under your pelvis. Let your knee come out to the side a little bit. So you're coming into your mini tree pose here. And you can bring your hands into prayer pose for a breath or two. So remember, you can have some toes on the floor in this mini tree pose. And then we're going to be bending the standing knee to come into the next part of the balance. So maybe bring your toes onto the floor, bend your standing knee, cross your other leg over the bottom leg. So your big toe could be on the floor at this point, or it could be off completely. Now, try to feel that your shoulders are over your hips. You're not leaning forwards. And then from here, if you want to try, taking your arms up as you exhale, dropping the shoulders, and yes, touching the hands in prayer pose over your head. Yes, and have a little shake out. So my thinking, if you're wondering why on earth we're doing that, is my thinking is maybe when we take the arms up and the hands in this position, we're less likely to be folding forwards. So we might be more likely to keep our shoulders over our hips. So a little shake out with the legs, and then we're going to do everything on the other side. So first thing you're going to do is shifting your weight onto the second foot, up onto the ball of the foot you just stood on. Let your toes slide back behind you. Flip onto the top of your toes and then just tap your toes on the floor. So you're ever so slightly picking your foot off the floor, the back foot, and not your standing foot. Good. And then you're sliding that foot back in under your pelvis, letting your knee turn out to the side, bringing your foot onto your ankle. Prayer pose, so this little mini tree pose. And seeing how that feels for a few breaths. Let the shoulders soften. Good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then we can let our toes come back onto the floor as we bend our standing leg and we cross the leg over. Maybe the big toe touches the floor if we need a bit of support to help us be steady. And And then from here, how is it to take the arms up? Dropping the shoulders, touching the hands in prayer pose. Having a few breaths here if we can. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave. Oh, and if like me, you wobble and fall out, that's fine. Do come down when you're ready, very lovely balancing. Have a good shake out of legs, and then you're going to be coming back into a forward bend. Your feet down, hip width apart and parallel, looking down at your feet, rolling down, letting your arms go, letting your head go, letting your shoulders give their weight down to the floor. Very nice. Knees can be as bent as you like, elbows can be resting on your thighs. You know for yourself how to make this forward bend as beneficial as possible. Good. Another cycle or two of breath and then rolling back into standing. Beautiful forward bends, everyone. Rolling back into standing when you're ready. Very nice. Let's come back to this one. We're going to do another little sequence of balances. Actually, in fact, let me see who has been completely different classes this week. So we will be doing something, anyone else was on Wednesday. So yeah, we're going to be doing another little sequence of balances, perhaps slightly more challenging, these ones. Not to fill you with a feeling of dread. So swing your arms a couple more times. And then let me just show you what we're going to do first of all. So we'll have a little shake out and just watch for a minute. So we're going to come into this one when we're reaching up through one arm, we catch the top of our foot. And then from here, your hand to the breastbone, you're going to release your back leg. I'm just realising I'm too near to my bookshelf. From here, forwards, reaching back with your back leg. Yeah, something like this. Obviously, very bad example is make sure you don't have anything too close behind you. So we're going to stood on first a moment ago. You're going to stand on that foot. So start by bringing that arm, whichever was your first foot. Bring your weight there, take your arm towards the ceiling, and then start to lighten the contact of the other foot on the floor. So your heel comes up, eventually the whole of the foot comes up, you catch the top of your foot, very nice, you let your knee drop, and then your hands rest. And at this point, it's probably good to sort of stay here until you feel settled. And when you do, we're going to release the back leg, see how it feels to tilt forwards, reaching back and up with the back heel. A couple of breaths, yes, that's it, beautiful. Very, very nice, good. And don't worry if you have a wobble. Yeah. So yeah, have a little shake out when you come out of that. So I suppose when we're doing a sequence of balances, we don't expect to stay in any of them so long, but maybe what we find is this sort of fluidity, and we don't get too fixed. Back into standing, feet hip width apart and parallel. Arm. So we're going to come stand on the other leg, whichever one it is, your left or your right. So shifting your weight into the other foot, let the foot you just stood on start to lighten its contact on the floor. So the heel comes up, and then the ball of the foot, you catch the top of your foot. How does it feel? Let your knee drop. Your hand can come to your breastbone. So see if you can be steady in this place, letting your knee drop before you move on to the next part of the balance. So whenever you're ready, you release your back leg, you bring your hands into prayer pose at your breastbone. You reach back with your back heel. You let your body tip forwards as your back leg comes up. There, oh, very nice. Yes, lovely. So sometimes that's very nice, Hilary, just for a moment. So sometimes it's just a moment we capture these things for, or touch upon them for a moment. After those things, have a little shake out. You'll probably want to do another forward bend for your lower back. So again, folding forwards, elbows on the thighs, or letting your head go, letting your arms go. So just, another lengthen out and seeing how does your forward bend feel. We've moved in and out now of a few forward bends. So that's, yes, Sheila, exactly. That's nice. If you want to do your weeping willow movements from side to side in this forward bend, that's a really good idea. Anything really anything that, you sort of think, oh yes, that would be nice in a movement is really helpful to do. So weeping willow movements. Holding the elbows is sometimes quite nice in a forward bend as well. And obviously coming up whenever you've had enough time there, sinking into your heels, rolling up. Good. So when you arrive back in standing, we're going to come to the backs of our mats. We're going to do a little bit of this reaching up into one arm and then the other. And then we're going to go down through a forward bend and dog pose. But a little bit of reaching into one arm, into the other, standing at the back of your mat. So in a moment, you'll be ready to come down through a forward bend and dog pose and on into child or kneeling or lying on your belly. So a couple more times, reach up into one arm, reach into the other, shift your weight into the reaching arm leg. And then let a breath come in, and as you exhale, roll down into your forward bend. And from your forward bend, walking your hands on into dog pose, seeing how this dog pose feels. If you feel drawn to doing any of your one-legged dog poses, by all means, you can add them in. Just, but equally, yes, very nice, Sheila. Equally, if you feel drawn to a bit of quiet time from here, you're going to be folding down into child, kneeling, or lying on your belly. So making, we've done a bit of dog and one-leg dog, just deciding for you right now, how would you like to have a few quiet breaths? Is it in child pose? Is it in kneeling? Is it lying down onto your belly? And feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And from wherever you are, the next thing we're going to be doing is coming into a lunge. So we're going to be thinking a bit more now about opening out through the front of the body, as well as sort of carrying on with some more twists as well. So bringing one foot forwards into your lunge, or Sarah into your mini lunge, and settling yourself in lunge with your knee over your heel and your front foot. Now, a couple of things, if you want some variations in lunge, you could keep your foot in between your hands, untuck your back toe. You could do this easing in and out of lunge. So rocking back, keeping your chest close to your thigh, rocking onto the heel of the front foot, front leg, and then coming back into lunge. So it's sort of easing forwards and back. So that's one possibility. And especially if you feel you need to if it would be helpful to come in and out of lunge. The other possibility is to stay in lunge, but to walk your front foot a bit more out to the side and bring your hands onto the inside of that front foot. And if I was doing this, I'd probably want my back toe tucked under. Let's see what your knee likes. So a couple more breaths, either rocking forwards and back or bringing the hands onto the inside of the front foot in your lunge. And then we'll be swapping sides. We'll do that on hands and knees. And once we've done both sides of lunge, we'll then have a lengthen out in dog pose. So when you're ready, coming back to hands and knees, bringing your other foot forwards in lunge, seeing how it feels on this side. So again, that starting point is our knee over our heel in the front leg. Trying to give the weight of the pelvis to the floor. And so again, we could do a little bit of that easing in and out of lunge. So again, my back knee needs my toes untucked. So rocking back is rock back, keep the chest close to the thigh, look back towards your back leg, the back foot rather, going forwards, maybe we come onto our fingertips, maybe the knee moves a bit forward, more forwards over the middle of the foot, as long as the heel stays down. Rocking back, looking back, rocking forwards. Carry on with that easing forwards and back if that's good for you. Or if you'd like, you could move on to walking your foot out to the side, bringing your hands down onto the inside. Seeing what it's like with the toes flat or the toes tucked under. Having a few more breaths in this side of lunge. So when we're moving on to dog pose, if you want to go straight from lunge to dog, you just need to bring your foot onto the inside of your hands again, I think, so your hands can be wide. But equally, if you want to go onto hands and knees and then into dog, you can do. So however is good for you, coming on into dog. If you stepped into dog from lunge, it might be quite a long dog pose and you might like to walk your feet in a little bit. And just, yes, seeing how dog pose feels. And you can stay there for a few breaths. And once more from dog pose, you're going to be just having a few breaths in kneeling, child, or on your belly. So when we settle in one of these three positions for a few cycles of breath, it's a chance to feel the weight of our body settling on the floor, to feel the movement of our breath in our body. And then from here, we're going to see how our face up dog feels this morning. So you're going to come into a long hands and knees position. If you're in child pose, you can just plant your hands on the floor, let your elbows come off the floor, and come onto hands and knees. And that's usually quite a good distance. Otherwise, coming into this long hands and knees position, and just start with a little bit of, quite gentle, I say gentle, sort of tentative, cautious, easing forwards and back. How is it to start to bring the pelvis forwards? Start to bring the shoulders over the wrists. So this asks quite a lot of the wrists. Sorry, I don't know how the wrists are. If it's better for you to be on your belly and on your forearms, you could do that. So we see how that feels once more, coming forwards in this way. And then we can add in some of the rounding, the cat movements that really can help with face up dog. So you can now tuck your toes under, round your back to the ceiling, rock your hips back over your heels. Let a breath come in and then travel forwards, rounding your back, watching your pelvis come forwards. And then eventually arriving in face up dog and then starting to look forwards, letting your pelvis hang. And then you can reverse that movement. Start to rock back, start to tuck your toes under, all the way back, letting a breath come in. Once more, rounding your back to the ceiling, traveling forwards into face up dog. Receiving an in-breath here, untucking your toes in face up dog. I think you all know that. Shoulders down away from your ears. So you could do one more face up dog if you like. Maybe that rocking back again, tucking the toes under. And then one more time, traveling forwards, rounding the back, watching the pelvis all the way into your face up dog. For a breath or two. Very wide through the front of the chest. And then again from here, just a few quiet breaths, kneeling on your belly, child pose. Good, yes. Now, let's have a look. We are actually going to come to sit in kneeling now. So, Kate, kneeling, is kneeling probably not, is kneeling okay? No, no, no. Not kneeling for you. Oh, so you're going to sit, Kate, you're going to sit in cobbler pose. Is that okay? Or actually, no, you're going to, in fact, and Kate, you're going to sit like this, okay? Because we're doing a twist. So if you, everyone else, if you sit in kneeling, if you can sit in kneeling comfortably, sit in kneeling. If not, sit like this, okay? Because this is quite a good place to do a twist as well. So, in this thinking about which twists are helpful, I think kneeling twist is really helpful. Now, Kate, you don't need to do this bit, but if you're in kneeling, it's quite good just to do these little cat movements to check that when you come to twisting, your spine is in neutral, yeah? So settling neither this nor this. Can we be somewhere in the center, letting the shoulders drop and then turning one way. Good, and so Kate, exactly, you can hold on to your knees in this, which is quite nice. Those of you who are kneeling, your front hand rests on the opposite thigh. Your back fingertips are on the floor behind you. If they don't touch the floor, they could be on the back of the pelvis. Obviously, do have a cushion under the tops of your feet if you need it, or between your heels and your bottom. Turning the other way. We're going to go in each direction twice. But of course, if you're kneeling and it's not great, then do change, do come to do Kate's variations, and you can always change and come to this one. You can hold, yeah, holding around the top of the legs is quite nice. So come back in each direction once more. I'm just feeling in this movement, either in kneeling or in sitting, we're really steady from the waist down. So as we turn in the twist, so turn to the second side now for the second time. As we turn in the twist, it really is our ribs and our shoulders that are moving. Good. Lovely. Come back to the center, and then you're going to sit your bottom down onto one side and your feet on the other. So we come to side sitting and, surprise, surprise, onto pinwheel. We'll do a little bit of circling here. So we can circle with our arms loose and free, or we can do this one where we give ourselves a hug, let the head hang. So this one is nice if the neck and shoulders are feeling tight. So if the head hangs forwards, get this nice stretch across the upper back as we circle. So a little bit more circling one way and then the other. And we're going to come into our pinwheel forward bend, but we're also going to do a little bit of walking towards what would be a side bend in pinwheel. So first of all, turn to, as we usually do, turn towards this leg that's coming out to the side. and see how it feels to fold down over that leg for a breath or two. But then you're going to explore, what's it like to walk your hands? And you might need to come a bit higher up. What's it like to walk your hands over towards your other knee? Yeah. And you could walk a little bit between the two knees. So it's probably less comfortable as you come over towards this knee, the back knee. So you can walk between the knees and just see how it feels to be in a forward bend. So when we're coming over the knee that's out to the side where we usually come forwards, that's probably a little bit easier. As you walk your hands over towards the other knee, perhaps it becomes harder to fold forwards. And you also might feel quite a lot going on around the back of the hip joint. And we're really sort of coming into quite a side lengthening movement here through this side of the body. Okay. And then you could end up back in your forward bend for a few more quiet breaths here. And just letting yourself settle. Settling and resting, trying to feel the weight of your body settling down onto the ground. Soft shoulders, long neck. Might be that your forehead touches the floor, or it might be that you can just let your head hang. Particularly if your elbows touch the floor, it's quite nice to let the head hang. And then slowly walking your hands in towards you. Let's lean back onto the hands and lengthen the legs out as they've bent for quite a while. Give the legs a bit of a shake out. And a roll. That's nice. And then come back very briefly into kneeling and then sit down onto the other side. So yes, and if kneeling's not good, just come into side 2 of pinwheel. Here. And we can do a bit of circling. Good. It's a little bit of circling again if you want to give yourself a hug. Let your head fall forwards, really find that. So again, yes, find that length across the back of the shoulders, the back of the neck. Again, it's quite nice if the hands are on the sort of that bony ball of the shoulder. So the shoulders are very wide, back of the neck lengthens out. We're circling one way and then the other. And then like we did on the other side, we can release the arms, we can turn towards the knee that's going out to the side. We could have a couple of breaths folding over that leg, seeing how that feels. And then we can explore that movement where we start to walk over towards the other knee. So again, it might be that we need to come a bit higher up to do that. So how is it to walk between the two legs? So it might feel quite easy to fold over this knee that's going out to the side where we usually fold. What happens as we walk over towards the other leg? How does it feel around the back of the hip joint and pelvis? How does it feel through the sides of the body? It's probably a lot, well, maybe quite a lot more difficult to fold forwards. You can explore that 2 or 3 times. You might think, oh, it's not very pleasant at all. And then you can end up back in your pinwheel forward bend. It's interesting how then maybe it's a little bit easier to settle into that forward bend. Having explored other less comfortable possibilities, you can settle. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave us. And then walking your hands in towards you, leaning back on your hands. lengthening your legs out in front of you, giving them a little lengthen out. So we're going to come into, let's see, we're going to come back to some of those hip movements, but first of all I'd like you to come into, we don't often do this position. I think last Friday we did a little bit of camel pose, and we're going to explore a bit from this upward position. So up kneeling. If like me, I say creaky old knees, I think my knees have been creaky like this for a very long time. If you need a bit of padding under your knees, if that makes it all easier, then have a blanket under. We're going to experiment a little bit with toes tucked under and toes flat. So at this point, you could just see what are the possibilities for you. Does it make any difference if your toes are tucked under or flat? Can you tuck your toes under and also have them flat? So one of the challenges in this pose is our lower back. So if you start to feel your lower back is feeling as you had enough, then stop. And then what I'd like you to do is just decide, I mean, I'd have my feet flat at this point, but if you're more comfy with your toes tucked under, you could. I just want you to do a little bit of turning one way, turning the other. So nothing too, that's it, nothing too dramatic. Leaving our pelvis facing forwards. A little bit of turning. Okay. And then we can try a little bit. What's it like here to take the arms up? So we can just take the arms up and be long and tall. See how that feels. And we can let the arms come down again. And we can take the arms up and let the gaze come up a bit. So it comes into, yes, this is Kapotasana when we have our arms up. Now, you might feel, release your arms again. You might feel as you do that and you look up, your lower back isn't happy. So what I often do here is have one hand on my pelvis. And I'm really trying, as I'm grabbing my trousers, trying to encourage my tailbone to drop. And then the other arm comes up and the gaze comes up. So you can try that. But again, just don't push any of these. What's that? Yeah, what's that like? We're going to come back to all of these in a moment, so don't feel this is your chance to push it. One last thing before we do something else and then come back to this. Try tucking your toes under now. And can you go from side to side and touch your toes? See how that feels. Well, not to your toes, sorry, your heels. I get very confused at this point. So you're trying to go from side to side and touch one heel and then the other. And you could be looking back towards your heel, or you could also see what's it like to look forwards and try to touch that heel without looking back. Okay. Let's come out of this now, and then we'll come back to all of this. So what I'd like you to do now is come onto hands and knees. Lengthen each leg out behind you. Stretching into your heels. Good. Then tuck your toes under. This is all right for everyone. Kate, if this isn't okay for your knees, we're coming back towards a squat. So we're coming back towards a squat. So if you do want something under your heels to be able to stay in a squat, like a book or a cushion, or rolling up the end of your mat. So you're walking your hands into your knees, picking your knees up off the floor. And you don't have to have something under your heels, but if it helps you to stay in a squat and let your lower back lengthen out, you're going to. And you can let your heels drop down towards the floor. Some of you might like to let your knees come apart and fold down in between your knees. For a breath or two. So if you're finding the squat useful, you might like to stay there. There's a couple of places you could move on to from here. Again, with this feeling of lengthening out the lower back. So one of them would be to sit down. Both of them are to sit down. One is to come into a long cobbler pose forward bend. So this one. And Sarah, for you, it would be this And anyone else who wants to try it, it's this sort of beginning of tortoise where it depends, you might not want to take your feet that one part, but it's what would it be like to fold down in between the legs? Yeah, so this one can be quite strong for the lower back, quite a stretch. So don't, Jan, and I know you've said that previously, so don't overdo it. And in fact, in that one, we'll stay here a bit longer in a moment, but in this one, if you are coming down in between your legs, it might be helpful to have a cushion under your elbows, just so that you can fold forwards, but not go too far if you feel in danger of that. Let's just lean back on the hands and lengthen the legs out, because we're going to do all of this again. So we're going to go back into those camel movements again, and then back into those things where our spine is moving the other way. So let your legs have a little bit of length out. And then come back up, back up to here. So it's quite interesting. So it might be that you're coming here, you think, oh, this is a relief, or it might be that this is the bit that makes you feel a bit more anxious. So come back to the first thing we were doing, which was just this, the last thing, sorry, we were doing, which was the one heel and then the other, with the toes tucked under. Yeah, just seeing how that feels. And then untuck the toes, and you can come back to seeing how does this one feel, this Kapotasana, where we're also bringing the gaze up. Yeah, so again, it could be one hand on the back of the pelvis, so we keep that feeling of length in the lower back, the tailbone dropping, opening through the front of ourselves. And then the final one you're going to try, so I think none of these you probably won't stay in that long. The final one you're going to try, it's possibly with your toes tucked under, is how is it to let both lots of fingers come down to your heels, so coming into a camel pose. Some of you might be really happy to do this with your feet flat. Yeah. Some of you might not want to do either of these. Okay. So it might be that you're another option is just your hand on your upper back, gaze coming up. Yes, Hilary, it could always be with your hand supporting your head here. So these are quite big movements, so don't overdo them. And yes, whenever you feel you've had enough of these ones where we're really opening out through the front of the body, trying to keep the lower back protected, you're going to come down onto hands and knees, and you're going to walk back into that squat again. And let the lower back lengthen out the other way. So these aren't, so camel is sort of interesting. It's one that I don't always practice and teach that much, but I've been doing it a bit more in the last week or so, and it can be really helpful for the shoulders and the upper back, but we have to push it. So if you like the squat, staying in the squat, remember that from the squat there were those two other options, the long cobbler pose forward bend, or the sort of tortoise movement. So there's long cobbler pose, your feet are far away from your bottom, you're folding forwards. So again, we'll just spend slightly longer in these forward bends now. So it might be if you're doing the cobbler pose forward bend, you want a cushion or two on top of your feet. And again, if you're doing the sort of tortoisey one, yes, that's it. So sorry, if you find that you don't want to fold in between your legs, you can be folding, yes, with your sort of knees and your armpits, that sort of movement. So if you do want to see what it's like to take your body down between your legs with your feet standing on the floor, that's it. Just make sure that you're not overstretching your lower back. And the cushion under the arms here could help that. Let's have a look. So yes, if you're doing that tortoise movement, it is the feeling that your rib cage is folding down in between your knees. Very nice. Good. And wherever you are, just see if you can be quiet for a couple of breaths, but you might also just have had enough and need to lengthen your legs out. Good. Yes, so from wherever you are, you can lean back onto your arms and give your legs a little bit of a lengthen out. So we're going to be, from here, coming back into some movements more of sort of focused around the hip joint. We're going to, so sorry, you won't want to do this first bit. I was going to say we're going to do this pigeon pose if I turn around. So this pigeon variation, and then moving on to normal pigeon, sorry, which you could do. So the one where we start with our heel under our buttock and we rock our pelvis from side to side over this heel. And from here, we will move on into pigeon pose, yeah? So start like this. Obviously, if this doesn't suit you, then you start straight in pigeon pose, and particularly if you need to be a bit offside in pigeon. So, sorry, I was going to say, can you, just so you don't have to remember, can you start with your right leg forwards? Because you'll see why in a minute. You don't want to have to think about this. So, yes, start with your right leg forwards. So your starting point is your heel under your buttock, and you're letting your pelvis rock to the right and to the left of this foot. So Sheila, have your heel under its buttock rather than, do you see what I mean? So you're in half of kneeling rather than in pigeon pose. So that's the one, yeah, that's the one. So it's slightly different to start with. It's like we're in half of kneeling, got our right leg forwards, we're rocking our pelvis side to side over that heel. And then when we want to come on into pigeon, sort of more of a traditional pigeon, we let our pelvis rock to the outside of our heel. And then, like you were doing, Sheila, you can then bring your foot so it's in front of your back leg thigh. So your foot comes over to the left a bit more. And then you can settle down into pigeon. If you need to be a bit lopsided in pigeon, that's fine. If you need to protect that front knee by rolling onto the top of your thigh, that's fine. Have a few breaths in pigeon. Wherever is helpful. It could be on your elbows, you could be on your hands, you could be resting down with your forehead on the back of your hands. Let's see if you can have a few more breaths there. Just give yourself another breath or two in pigeon. And then what you're going to do from there is roll out onto your front leg, top of your front leg thigh, yeah? And then we're going to swing this back leg around. We're not going into cow legs. We're swinging it so it comes straight forwards. And we're standing the bent leg foot on the floor. So we're in this position. I swing around here. So if you look at me, I've got a hip width distance between my bent, I'll do the same as you, my bent right leg, my right foot standing on the floor, my left leg is long. And this foot, this standing foot's quite close into your pelvis if possible. And then we hold around this leg and we let our spine grow long and tall. And again, when I was thinking about useful twists here, it can be quite a helpful place to do a twist. So turning towards this standing foot leg, so turning towards the right. So we're holding around our leg with the left hand. The right fingertips come onto the floor behind us. We can have a few breaths there. And then we can also turn away from that leg. So we can turn towards the left. So we hold around our right knee with our right arm. And then we turn towards our long leg. And again, This time it's the left fingertips come onto the floor, and see how that twist feels. So what's really helpful here is we've got this bent leg to help support our spine. It helps us stay a bit more upright. And then coming back to the center, we're going to use our hands on the floor. Keep your legs like this. You're going to lower yourself down onto your back, keeping your right knee bent and your left leg long. Just let yourself arrive on your back. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And when you're ready, you're coming into those foot pressing movements. So pressing into your right foot, letting the pelvis lift on the right side, letting the pelvis tilt towards the left. And so do this a few times. See how it feels. Keep the arms nice and heavy and settled by your sides. Good. Sheila, I wonder if you need your foot a bit more out to the side, possibly. Your standing foot. Yeah, that looks better to me. Good. That's nice. So a few more times. It might be that you coordinate that pressing with your out breath. So exhaling, pressing into your right foot. Right side of the pelvis lifts, your pelvis tilts towards the left. And then the next time your pelvis comes back onto the floor fully, stay there. Let a breath come in, and as the breath leaves you, fold that right knee into your chest and hold around the top of your knee with both hands. Leave the left leg long on the floor. So have a couple of breaths there with this feeling of the right thigh settling down towards your chest. And then keep supporting that knee with your left hand, and you're going to bring your right arm out onto the floor at shoulder height. That's it. So settle your right arm on the floor. So we're going to try and keep the right shoulder on the floor. As you can start to rock your knee across your body over towards the left. That's it. So the back of the pelvis comes off the floor, but this right shoulder stays on the ground. Good. So it's up to you. You can rock into this twist and stay in the twist. And you could be supporting your knee. So your left elbow might come onto the floor and your hand makes a little shelf to support your right knee. This is the left arm. Or it might be that you rock in and out of the twist. So it's entirely up to you. See what feels helpful. It's quite good if you can to keep that knee quite close to your chest. Or reasonably close to your chest. Good. If you're enjoying the twist, stay there. If you've had enough, you can untwist. You might like to lengthen both legs out on the floor for a moment. Yes, or both legs up into the air. Very nice. Yes, so just do something where, yeah. It's nice to see all the variety of what we want to do. So it's lying for a moment. And notice how your body feels. So we've done a whole sequence of movements on one side. So we might feel a little bit unbalanced. And of course, we're going to do everything on the other side. So have a few breaths just lying on the ground. And when you're ready, you're then going to fold your knees into your chest. You're going to do a little bit of rocking from side to side here. And then rocking all the way onto your side. And we're going to be coming over back into that rocking, pelvis rocking version of pigeon and on from there. So yes, coming back around. This time, this is why I was asking you to do the right leg. So this time it's going to be your left knee coming forwards. And I thought, I don't really want people to have to try and remember. So the left knee is coming forwards. You've got your left heel under your buttock, under its buttock. As your starting point, you're down on your forearms. Sorry, you're going into a normal pigeon pose. So the rest of you, you're starting off with this movement where the pelvis rocks side to side over the heel. It's taking us into a bit of a side lengthening movement, side bending movement. So it could be that you look down the sides of your body as you let your pelvis rock from side to side. That's a possibility. Your back toes can be tucked under or flat. And whenever you want to go on into more of a normal pigeon pose, just let your pelvis rock to the outside of your heel, then slide that heel over towards the right a little bit. Your knee needs to possibly move out towards the left a little bit, and then roll your pelvis over into pigeon. If you need to take the weight off your front knee, then roll your weight towards the top of your left thigh and the left side of the pelvis. And then have a few breaths in your pigeon pose, on your forearms, on your hands, resting your forehead down on the floor. Otto's just returned from a walk with the dog walker. Hello, boy. Hello, boy. So having a few breaths in your pigeon pose. Any little rocking movements you'd like to do, those are always helpful. Very nice. Good. And then, yes, you're going to come out, or you can stay, but you can also might want to come out by rocking onto that left, top of the left thigh, and then swinging your right leg around. So we come to this position. We've got the right leg long, we've got the left knee bent, we've got the left foot standing on the floor. We're going to hold around that left knee and let our spine grow up. So the challenge here is maybe to let this right leg quieten down and settle. So the more we can use our hands and our arms to help support us, the better. Let's turn towards the left so we can hold around the leg with our right arm. The left fingers can be on the floor helping to support us. Just keep trying to let the right leg be heavy and floppy. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then again, you can turn the other way. So turning towards the right. So this time the left arm holds around the left knee. The right fingertips come onto the floor behind you. Again, we're trying to keep the spine as upright as possible, but with the shoulders relaxed and that long leg as relaxed as possible on the floor. Good. And then coming back to the center, using your hands on the floor beside you to gently lower yourself down onto your back and arrive down onto your back with your left knee bent, your left foot standing on the floor, your right leg long. Just have a breath or two there. And when you're ready, you can then start your foot pressing on this side. So pressing into your left foot, letting the right side of the pelvis, letting the left side of the pelvis lift, letting the pelvis tilt to the right. Keep it easy, keep it comfortable. Notice what you feel. Sharon, I wonder whether your foot is too close in actually. That looks better. Good. Yeah, so a few more times. See how it feels to press your weight down into that left foot. Let the left side of the pelvis lift. Let the left knee travel forwards over the foot. Let your pelvis tilt to the right. Very nice. Once or twice more. And then pausing with the back of your pelvis on the floor, folding that left knee in towards your chest. Moving the right leg, so the right leg's long on the floor, the left knee's folded into your chest. You're going to have a few breaths, feeling the left thigh settling down towards your chest. And then when you're ready, you can keep supporting that knee with your right hand. Bring the left arm onto the floor at shoulder height. Good. I got completely confused with my lefts and rights. And then as you're ready, you can start to rock your knee across your body over to the right. And the left shoulder stays on the floor, but the back of the pelvis comes away from the floor. So that weight of the leg is helpful. The weight of the bent knee is helpful in bringing your pelvis over towards the right. And you can rock in and out, or you can stay in the twist. So letting the knee come over towards the right. And at that point, you might have your right elbow on the floor. Your right hand will make a little bit of a shelf for the knee to rest on. If there's anything to hand around you, like beds or walls, you're very welcome to put your foot or your, sort of lengthen out that top leg, put your foot up on something. You could do, yes, that's it, Sheila. The foot could be on the thigh a little bit. Good. Just have a few breaths either in the twist or with a little bit of rocking. If you're happy there, you stay a little bit longer. If you're ready to come out, you can come out. And once more, it's just sort of seeing, what would you like to do now? Is it long legs? Is it folding your knees in towards your chest? Is it taking your legs and maybe your arms up towards the ceiling? And then we're going to settle for a little bit of quiet breathing on our backs. And we're going to do a little, very simple exercise where we touch our thumb onto our fingers just to help us keep track of our breathing. So when you're settled, I will talk you through it. It's very simple. Maybe to start with, bring your hands onto your belly or somewhere on the front of your body and just feeling the breath in the body. The flow of the breath through your body. then from there, bring both arms to rest on the floor beside you. And we're going to start by turning our attention to the right hand. And you're going to turn your right hand so the palm is facing the ceiling. And then you're going to touch your thumb onto your little finger. And you're going to let a breath come in and a breath leave you. And then you're going to touch your thumb onto your ring finger and let a breath come in and let a breath leave you. And then touch the thumb to the middle finger, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then touch the thumb to the index finger. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then go back down through the fingers. Al, you could do this lying down if you prefer. Most people are, but you can sit, yes. So right hand, back of the right hand facing the ceiling. And then I'd like you to go back down through the fingers. So touch your right thumb to your right middle finger. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And back down through the fingers. So touching the thumb to the ring finger, letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And then finally down to the little finger. Letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And then let that right hand just soften and relax. See if you can feel a couple of cycles of breath move through you, just feeling your breath in your body. And then we're going to do the same movement, the same touching of the fingers in the left hand. So bring your left hand so the left hand palm is facing the ceiling and touching your thumb to your little finger. Letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. Touch the thumb to the ring finger, letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. Touch the thumb to the middle finger. Breath comes in, a breath leaves you. And then to the index finger. And in your own time, you're going to go back down through touching the thumb to the middle finger, the ring finger, and finally the little finger. Having a cycle of breath in each position. So having a breath, letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And in your own time, when you finish, let that hand soften and relax too. And you could leave your arms resting on the floor, or you could bring your hands back to the front of your body, whatever you prefer. We'll just lie quietly with our breath for another minute or so. Feeling the body settled on the ground. Feeling the flow of the in and the out breath. And also at this point, we can let our awareness be more expansive, we can be aware of air on our skin, noises, presence of other people and animals. Just letting ourselves rest with the present. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. So just stay lying down until we reach the silence at the end of the 3rd sound. So thank you, everyone. I'm just going to stop recording.